This is a headline that I saw on the website First Liberty. It's one of those right-wing legal groups. And basically, the story here, Arizona school board sued by member for censoring scripture reading at meetings, which should raise us so many red flags, because why would a school board member be reading scripture at meetings? So let's talk about what's actually going on here, because I had to investigate this, right? So here's the story. Arizona has a school district, the Peoria Unified School District. And there's a member there, Heather Rooks, Rooks. So Heather Rooks is one of the board members there. And she joined the board back in January. And there's a section of the board meetings that allows board members a chance to say whatever's on their minds. And sometimes they'll commemorate a holiday, draw attention to issues faced by the district, congratulate students. It's all well and good. Whenever they get to Rook's turn to speak what's on her mind, she always opens up these meetings, or her section of those comments, by citing a Bible verse. So, for example, in February, she began her remarks citing Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Train up a child, which, as I'm sure many of you know, is a verse that has been used to justify child abuse. She could say that's not what she was doing there, but also, really, that's the verse you're opening your remarks with? And she just reads out that verse and then continues on like nothing ever happened. In March, she was at a meeting where she cited 1 Corinthians, be on guard, stay awake, stay firm in your faith, be brave, be strong. And at that point, when she said this stuff, even the chair of the board piped in to say, like, what are you doing? You can't do that. He said, our attorneys have told you that reciting scripture at board meetings goes against the Establishment Clause. And they also said, you don't have like First Amendment rights here because you are speaking as a member of a public governing body, not as an individual. So like her lawyers at the district were like, stop it. She did not stop it. And in fact, by May, one of the other school board members, Rebecca Hill, started quoting from the Bible as well. And she quoted a verse that says, whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble in sin by leading him away from my teaching, it would be better for him to have a large millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Rebecca Hill read that verse, which has been used to suggest that if anyone's gay or trans or an atheist, they should be executed. And Rooks followed that up with her own reference to another passage from 1 Corinthians. Again, this goes on for a while. The executive director of the Secular Coalition for Arizona spoke up at a meeting over the summer. And during the public comment section, she literally apologized to the public. She said, I'm saying this as a caring adult in the room. I apologize that last month, one of the board members called for your eradication. She said that's all the non-evangelicals in the audience. Anyway, so this is Heather Rooks. And back in May, the Freedom from Religion Foundation sent a letter to the district basically saying, what are you people doing there? And they sent it to David Sandoval, who's the president of the board. I should say there are 5 members of the board. 2 of them are doing this Bible reading thing. And FFRF basically told them, look, you're government officials. You cannot be allowed to commandeer the board in order to impose your personal religious beliefs on everybody else. FFRF pointed out they sued another school district for doing something similar in California, and that district had to pay out more than $200,000 when all was said and done. So what happened? This was written in May. What happened at the very next meeting? Take a guess. Take a guess. Heather Rooks didn't care. She cited a verse from Ephesians and just carried on. And here's the thing. By July, Rooks said she would stop doing it and she would have her attorneys at First Liberty handle this matter. So there were like a couple of months where she stopped doing that. She's still a bad board member. She's still making crazy decisions, which I'll tell you about. But she was like, fine, I'll stop for now. I will let my conservative Christian lawyers decide what to do next. And you can take a wild guess what her conservative Christian lawyers have told her to do. And by the way, here is check this out. This is their lawsuit that they are now filing. Here we go. Heather Rooks versus the whole school district. And she's basically suing them for telling her not to quote the Bible at meetings. And in a sense, she's like suing the district before Freedom from Religion Foundation can sue the district for allowing her to say those things. So this lawsuit, which is like 28 pages, it says Heather Rooks deserves absolute legislative immunity for reciting the Bible at meetings in case FFRF sues. She wants a judge to rule that her Bible readings are legal. She wants money for damages and attorney's fees and for herself. And what's interesting is that this lawsuit basically argues that she is no different from anybody else. Like, look at the beginning of this lawsuit. It cites President Biden referencing the Bible. President Lincoln is there. President George Washington. Like, yeah, presidents do this. And look at this. Heather Rooks isn't a famous historical figure or a household name, but she too wants to be part of the long-standing tradition of government officials solemnizing public occasions in this way. She is not a president. She is not Congress. And here's the thing. As we have seen with invocation prayers, the courts across the board have repeatedly said there is a key difference between, say, Congress or a legislature or a city council having opening prayers and school boards doing the same thing. Why? Because there are children involved at school board meetings. Kids are often present at those meetings. They are there. That means those gatherings are basically school-sponsored events. It's illegal. That's why it's illegal for administrators and employees to push their faith on kids, even if, like Heather Rooks, you're not openly trying to proselytize. Like, of course, schools can study this stuff. They can study Bible verses for academic reasons. That's not what this is about. But this idea that she is no different from a president or a member of Congress who delivers invocations, that's just BS because courts do not see it that way. That's why this lawsuit shouldn't go anywhere. Even Joe Kennedy, that football coach from Bremerton that we've talked about in the past, even the Supreme Court said, okay, you can pray at midfield after football games, but only after the whistle has blown, so the game is over, and only when you're not on the clock doing stuff for your team. Because even this Supreme Court said, if you're on the clock working as a football coach hired by the school district, you can't do that. You're allowed to do it, even if it's public, at midfield, they said, like when you're not on the clock. But Heather Rooks doesn't get that. She thinks she is no different than like George Washington, which makes no sense at all. And here's the thing. If she wants to pray, she can pray. No one is stopping her. She could do it while driving to a meeting. She can pray silently while everyone else is speaking. She could do it during a bathroom break. She could do it while sitting on the toilet. Like, is her God so weak that he can't hear the prayers unless she says it at the beginning of public comment time at the board meetings? Like, there's nothing in the Bible that says prayers have to be delivered publicly in order to count. In fact, if Heather Rooks ever read the Bible, she would know that there are verses in Matthew specifically condemning that, but she hasn't read it. She just cherry picks verses. I did ask the Secular Coalition for Arizona about this. Did they have any response to the lawsuit? And here's what they told me. She can't separate church from state. She can't separate herself from her role as a school board member, and she can't separate fact from fiction. And they went on for a while, but they said this lawsuit is an attempt to force her religion onto children against the wishes of their parents. Religion should be taught at home by the parents, not at a public school board meeting by an unrelated person. And by the way, I told you I would mention this. Heather Rooks, outside of the prayer thing, like, she's not a good board member regardless. According to the Secular Coalition for Arizona, which has tracked her for all year long, here's what I learned about her. At the district slogan begins every student, every day. And she always adds in there, except the girls, because this district has trans inclusive policies and she thinks that violates girls' rights and their safety. She also follows neo-Nazi social media accounts. Heather Rooks whined about a promotional video all about the district's history of racial diversity and inclusion because she said they made it all about race. She opposed social workers in the district traveling to an out-of-state conference, even though it was funded entirely by outside grant money, because that conference had anti-racism sessions. She said that the district, which is looking for a new superintendent, she said that one of the qualifications needed to be love of country, as if like pseudo patriotism needed to be something a superintendent needs. And maybe the most crazy thing, Microsoft had its charity arm say, we want to offer your students free computer science classes. Like, we'll pay for the teachers, we'll pay for the equipment, whatever. We want to make sure your kids are good at working with computers. And she rejected that program. Why? Because Microsoft boasts about its commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. She's just hurting the kids in the district. Now, the good news is there are 3 sane people in the district on the board who outnumber her and her colleague. But as we all know, like, that can change very quickly as right-wing groups mobilize to take over school boards. So I hope it lasts, but I don't know how long it will. I can tell you this defamation, this case against the school district for not letting her speak about the Bible, that's not going to go anywhere. That's just a waste of everyone's time.